When you're ready, go ahead and come to standing near the front of the mat, lining your feet up with each other a comfortable distance width apart. Knees facing generally forward, second toes facing generally forward, knees tracking towards second toes or thereabouts, and go ahead and shift the weight a little bit forward and back in your feet. Eventually coming to a place where the weight feels balanced between the front and the back of your feet, wiggle your toes. With your next inhale, go ahead and lifting the toes up, feeling the muscles of the feet wake up with the toes. Exhale, go ahead and release. Inhale and curl the toes under, pulling the toes back to the heels like you're grabbing at your mat. Really feel the arches lifting up when you do that. Go ahead and release. Wiggle your toes again. And then with your next inhale, again, lifting your toes up, feeling the arches waking up with the toes. Balance out the weight throughout your feet. If it helps, you can think about pressing evenly down right behind the big toe, inner edge of the heel, out right behind the baby toe, and outer edge of the heel. And then pulling the front of your foot behind the big toe and baby toe towards the back of your foot, inner and outer edges of the heel to help to lift up the arches, to engage your arches here. Then keep the muscles of the feet working, the arches engaged. Spread the toes nice and wide apart if they'll move for you, and lowering the toes back down to the ground. Pressing the toes into the earth without curling them under, and trying to feel the arch muscles lifting up. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bone, but the knee joint soft. Feel the muscles around the hips hugging in, including pelvic floor muscles lifting in and up. Feel that natural curve in the low back, the top of the hips lifting in and up a little bit and back, but not too big of one. Low ribs in front lifting in and up. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, head and neck stacked above the rest of the spine. Feel the breath flowing through you here, with your exhales anchoring from the hips down to the feet to the earth. Breathe. If you'd like for a moment to bring one hand to your belly, the other hand to your heart, and just to feel the breath moving through you. As you inhale, feeling the hands moving away from the spine or expanding away from each other. And on the exhale, the hands can move in toward each other, in towards the spine. And let yourself settle into the current of the breath. And let the breath move through you, and let the breath move you. Throughout class, maintaining your connection to the breath. If at any point you lose that connection, if your thoughts start to drift or to wander, coming back to that connection, to that place. Also staying deeply aware of your body and connected to yourself here. And listening to the information that it gives you. So feel free to adjust, to modify, to insert different postures. Even if what I say sounds like a command, it's shorthand. Make the practice your own. Breathe. We will start with the Om. If you'd like to join in, hands might come back together in front of the heart. Exhaling. Inhale deeply. And then taking a big, full, deep breath in. And exhaling gently, softly, opening the eyes. If you close them, releasing the arms to the side. Moving with the flow of the breath. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms back to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Right hand grab left wrist. Exhaling over to the right side. Inhale to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale up to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale up to center, interlace the hands, turn the palms away from you. Rest the back of the hands on your head for a moment. And again, just rooting from the hips down to the feet into the earth. Feeling the arches of your feet lifting up. And then as you're ready, with the shoulders gently moving toward each other on the back, start to extend your arms straighter. But only straightening the arms as much as works for you. And trying to press the thumb side of your hand a bit more towards the sky as maybe you pull the pinky finger side of the hand down a bit towards the ground. Breathing here. As you root from the hips to the feet into the earth, feel the spine lifting up and lifting all the way up out to the top of the head. And then with your next exhale, release the arms to the sides. Shoulder roll, shoulders up and on the back. Shoulder rolls forward. And then shoulders a little bit up, back, and down. Hands to your hips, knees a bit soft. Inhale and lengthen the spine out of the hips with a nice long spine. Exhale, folding forward. Stop when the back wants to round. Inhale, coming back up. Exhale and folding forward. Inhale, coming back up. Exhale with a nice extended spine, folding forward. Inhale, back up. Back up, press from the hips down through the feet to the earth. Feel the spine lifting up out of the hips. Move your elbows and shoulders toward each other on the back. Feel free to stay here. Or if you'd like to interlace the hands behind the back here, maybe flipping with hands on top. And then with your hands maybe interlaced behind the back or on your hips, shoulders moving back. Press the back of the head back a bit, pressing behind the mouth back. Try not to lift your chin up or tuck the chin down, and keep your chin relatively neutral. Perhaps start to stretch the arms off the back here. But again, noticing if your chin starts to lift up or tuck down, pressing the back of the head back, lengthening up out through the head, standing up nice and tall, and feeling the breath moving through you here. And then exhale, you can bend the elbows again if you did straighten the arms. Release the arms to the sides. And again, shoulder rolls, shoulders up and on the back. Shoulder rolls forward. Shoulders a bit up, back, down. Knees as wide apart as your feet. As you're ready, inhale, bend your knees up like you're sitting back in a chair. Utkatasana, only bending the knees as much as feels good for you. Exhale, back up to standing. As you inhale and bend the knees, the arms can reach up again, only as much as feels good for your shoulders. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees in Utkatasana. Exhale, hands on your knees. Stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips here. Feel free to keep a more extended spine, or if you want to, pour the spine over the legs and the back gently around as you fold in. And you can let the hands slide further down on the legs, come to the floor, or you can use some blocks underneath the hands here. Feel the core gently engaging, hugging in towards the spine, and keeping your torso relatively close to the legs. As you're ready, inhale and straightening the legs only as much as feels good for you, lifting the hips up. Exhale, bend the knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale and straightening the legs. Exhale and bending your knees. Inhale and straightening the legs. With the legs relatively straight, then that spine pouring forward over the legs, feeling the breath moving through you. And again, if it feels better for your hands to be up higher and the spine to be lengthening, you could do that. And we're actually going to all maybe do that in a moment. Staying nice and strong and steady through the legs. And as you're ready, again, inhale, stretch the chest forward. And again, if you do want to slide hands up the legs, you can lengthen. Exhale, slide down and pull. Inhale, hands slide up the legs and lengthen. Exhale, slide down and pull. Inhale and lengthen. Either staying here and holding the extended spine for a while, maybe with your knees a bit soft, or folding back in, bend your knees enough to get your fingers or your palms to the ground, or use blocks. And with your knees bent, start to walk the feet back away from you, but not getting light through the heels. So you're keeping your heels on the ground here. Well, you are getting light maybe through them, but you're keeping them on the ground. Shifting the weight back into your heels. And again, feel free to have the knees bent or the legs straight, but pressing the hips up, back away from you here as you stretch the chest forward out of the hips. And again, if this position doesn't work for you, you can feel free to bring your hands up to the legs, or you can have the hands on blocks, extending to the spine here. Breathe. And then go ahead and walk your feet back in and folding forward over the legs. So hands again, either on legs or floor. Press down to the feet. Nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart, anchoring from the hips down to the feet to the earth. Feel the lightness and lift through the arches of the feet. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the side. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Right hand might grab left wrist, leaning over to the right, holding here. Feel free to stay here, or if you want to, shift your weight into your left foot. Slide your right foot a little bit to the right, maybe lifting the right foot up off the ground entirely. Breathe. And if you did lift the right foot up, go ahead and bring it back down. Inhale, back to center. Left hand, right wrist. Exhale, over to the left. Breathing here. Sliding the weight into your right foot. And again, maybe sliding the left foot over to the left. Maybe lifting that foot up off the ground entirely. Breathe. And then as you're ready, bring the left foot back down. If you lift it up, inhale back to center. Exhale, release the arms to the sides. Feel the breath moving through you. Feel connection from the hips down to the feet to the earth. With your next inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Hands to legs, blocks or floor, legs bent or straight. Inhale and lengthen. You can slide the hands up the legs or keep them low. Exhale and folding in. Bend the knees deeply enough to get the hands to the ground and start to walk the feet back. This time, go ahead and let the heels lift up if that feels okay for you. Walking your feet way back away from the hands, downward facing dog if that's in your practice. Downward facing dog is not in your practice, all fours instead. In downward facing dog, if you're doing that, bend your knees and press your hips up, back, away from your hands. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths here. And then as you're ready, exhale, coming to all fours, coming to your hands and knees. Taking a moment, setting up your hands if you need to move them around. Lines of the wrist relatively parallel with the front edge of the mat, fingers spreading nice and wide apart. Always feel free to use other hand positions if other positions feel better for you. With your next inhale, stretch your spine nice and long. Exhale and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale and arch the back, head and tailbone up to the sky. And just moving back and forth to the flow of the breath here, connecting this movement to the rhythm of the breath. And noticing how you feel as you move, how your back feels, how your shoulders feel, how your neck feels, how your wrists feel, how your knees feel. But also notice what you're doing, rounding and arching the back, shoulders moving on and off the back, head and hips tilting under and up, and their thigh muscles moving forward and back as you breathe. So with your next inhale, come back to a nice extended spine. With a nice long spine, exhale, feel the shoulders gently moving toward each other on the back, hugging in some. Feel the low ribs gently hugging in towards the spine, but not so much that the hips tuck under. Start to slide the right leg back behind you, straightening the right leg, maybe lifting that foot up off the ground. Feel free to stay here or start to slide the left hand forward, maybe lifting that hand off the ground. Holding here, breathe. From your core, stretching back to the right foot forward to the left hand. And then go ahead and lowering the left hand back down if you lifted it up. With your right toes curled under, lower the right foot down to the ground. And then go ahead with your next exhale and stretch it back to that right heel. So maybe moving your torso back a little bit and pressing that right heel back for the wall behind you and see what that feels like. Breathing, keeping the spine still nice and extended. And then with your next inhale, after a few breaths of that, we're gonna move the shoulders forward, maybe even past the wrists. So maybe your back toes kind of go into what we used to call a point, which is kind of something between a flex and a point. And then go ahead and lower the right leg down, knee down. Inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, nice long spine. With that nice long spine, shoulders hugging in toward each other on the back, core gently engaged. Sliding that left leg back behind you, maybe lifting the left foot up. You could stay here, or you could slide the right hand forward, or maybe lift the right hand up. Core engaged, stretching back that left foot forward to the right hand. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths here. And then lowering the right hand down with your left toes curled under, lower the left foot to the ground, and then go ahead and pressing back to that left heel. So your whole torso might move a little bit back, so your shoulders might be behind your wrist as you stretch out that back calf muscle, the back Achilles tendon. Breathe. And then playing some with wrist mobility, so grabbing at the floor with your fingers and maybe let the shoulders come a little bit past the wrist if that works for you. Sliding the whole torso a bit forward, but still trying to keep your spine nice and extended. Breathing here. And then go ahead and come back someplace in between. Lower the left knee down and child's pose. Feet together, knees a little bit apart. Hips towards your feet, head towards the ground, only as much as feels good for you. Letting the back gently round. And feeling the breath moving into the back of the body. Feel free to do any version of child's pose that works for you. And particularly if lowering the hips down towards the heels don't work for you, hips might be above the knees, shoulders might be underneath, your elbows might be underneath your shoulders. So feel free to be there. But if it works for you, stretch your arms forward out in front of you, and maybe lifting up to your fingertips here, hugging the finger pads in toward each other, feeling the lifting up of the arms, but softening the upper back right between the shoulder blades as you relax the head and neck towards the ground. And then go ahead and bring your knees in close together, feet close together. Start to walk your hands back. Now again, if you have knee issues, your knees might be up higher, or you might keep your hips might be up higher than your feet, and you might keep your hands on the ground and only play with moving the hips back towards the heels. But if you can keep your hips on your feet comfortably and walk your hands back and come into a low nil, this might be an option for you. Also, if that's not really comfortable for you, you can always grab a block. Blocks have 3 heights, low, medium, high, and you can always put a block underneath your hips or a pillow or anything else you have lying around the house underneath your hips, and you can sit on a little bit of height. So also feel free to grab something and to sit on something here. Breathe. We are going to move into some sitting poses now. And if you would like to keep a little bit of height under your hips for sitting poses, for a lot of people that feels more comfortable. Again, pillows work really actually great because we often use bolsters here. So especially if you have a thick pillow that's not going to smush down, like not so much a bed pillow, but a couch pillow works really well. So you can always grab one of those too. Okay, so when you're ready, though, coming into a comfortable cross-legged position, if that works for you, with the right leg crossed over the left. So just as you're ready, coming off whatever you might be on now, or coming out of trying to move your hips back towards your heels a little bit higher towards the nil, and coming into a comfortable cross-legged. And again, for a lot of people, sitting on something might make cross-legged more comfortable, so if that's you, go ahead and sit on something. Right leg crossed over in front of the left, holding on to your knees, and just trying to sit up nice and tall here. And if cross-legged doesn't work for you, feel free to come into, I call this is a position that doesn't really have a name in yoga. This is the way you see little children sit a lot of times, and this is a really nice position to start working the hips. Okay. Lifting the low back up out of the hips. If cross-legged is fine for you, now we're going to take the right, or even if it's not, take the right hand back behind you. Take your left hand across the right leg, and just coming into a gentle twist here. Breathe. And then as you feel ready, go ahead and unwind and switching sides. So a left leg in front of the right, holding onto your knees, just trying to untuck your hips, sitting up nice and tall here, breathing here. And then if all this is working well for you, or if you're in another leg position that you can sit up nice and tall, you can take the left hand back behind you, right hand across the left leg, and turn to the left here, breathing. Nice full deep. With your next inhale, go ahead and unwind, and however works for your body, transitioning back to all fours, hands and knees. With your next inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, nice long spine. With a nice long spine, shoulders on the back, core engaged. If downward facing dog is in your practice, downward facing dog. If not, all fours. Press the hips up, back away from you here. Bending both knees, pressing the hips up, back, past the knees, really lengthening out the low back. Now think of your feet here. So as you think of your feet, I want you to imagine you're stretching your heels away from the toes as maybe you start to slowly straighten the legs and lower the heels towards the ground. Trying to stretch out the bottoms of your feet a little bit here, and also stretching out those Achilles tendon and calf muscles again. Look forward at the hands, bend your knees, walk your feet towards the hands and the hands towards the feet. Once all the weight's in your feet, you can inhale, slide the hands up the legs and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, slide the hands down and fold. Press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Anchor from the hips down to the feet into the earth. And then with your next exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and folding, legs bend or straight, hands to legs, blocks are four. Inhale and extend through the spine, and you really might want to slide your hands up on the legs here, even if you usually don't. So now, feeling the spine lengthening out of the hips, and again, knees might be softer, legs straight. You're going to take the left hand to the outside of the left shin, but you're also going to take the right hand to the outside of the left shin. You're going to try to keep your hips in place because you're going to move the middle of the sternum, the middle of the chest, over the right leg a little bit more. And then from here, you might fold forward over the right leg, so a little twist or turn through the spine, even as you're trying to keep your hips from twisting and turning. Breathe. And then as you feel ready, with your next inhale, extending through center, long through center, Breathing here. And again, from here, left hand to the outside of the left shin, right hand to the outside, maybe of the left shin too. So your spine has this little twist or turn action going on as you center the chest over the left leg, trying not to move your hips too much. And then perhaps folding forward here, but also feel free to stay in the extended spine variation. Breathe. Try to keep your legs nice and steady and strong. So it's above the hips that you're doing this twist and turn, not so much the hips and below. And then inhale and lengthen back through center. And exhale and fold. Breathe. Nice full deep breath. And then staying nice and strong and stable through the legs. Hands to the hips, shoulders in the back. Nice long spine. All the way up to standing. Soften your knees and open your legs nice and wide to the side, lining your feet up with each other here. Once your feet up are lined up with each other here, heel toe, your feet as wide apart as works for you in this position. And line up your feet again with each other. From the hips rooting down to the legs, into the feet, into the earth, but trying to feel those arches of the feet lifting up and your leg muscles hugging all the way back into your hips at the same time. From here, hands can come into a T position, and if you'd like, the shoulders gently moving towards each other on the back. Breathe. This is a variation of triangle. Bring your hands back to your hips, and with your knees a bit soft again, heel toe your feet a little bit in so you can move some. Line the feet up again. Inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale with the softness of the knees, tilting a bit forward at your hips, and then bring your hands to your thighs. Knees tracking towards your second toes, and then going more to one side and then the other. So the side you're leaning towards, that knee will bend more, but it keeps tracking towards the second toe. And the side you're moving away from, that leg will straighten some. Breathe. And you're doing this however many times it makes you feel balanced between your two sides. Once you're ready, coming back into center, knees a bit soft, lengthen the spine out of the hips here. And with a nice long spine, maybe sliding the hands further down on the legs, maybe bring your hands to blocks or floor. Feel free to keep the knees bent or wherever your hands are with your spine in a bit of an extension, straightening the legs. And then feel free to keep the spine in extension or engaging the core, gently letting the back round and fold in. Perhaps your hands will change positions when you do that. Press from the hips down to the feet into the earth. Feel the arches of the feet lifting up. Feel your legs nice and steady and strong as you breathe here in a wide-legged forward fold. Staying steady through the legs, hands to the hips. Nice long spine all the way up to standing. And then with your knees soft, heel toe your feet in towards each other. Shake out the legs. And turn and face the front of the mat. We are going to do balancing now. So if you'd like to take a step off the mat, you can take a step off the mat. Hands to your hips, rooting from the hips down to the feet into the earth. Shift your weight into your right foot. Slide your left toes back a little. Feel free to keep the left toes on the ground or to lift that left foot up. Feel free to hold here, or if you want to grab the left foot and stretch the left knee down towards the ground, you can. Breathe. Releasing the left foot. Shift your weight into the left foot. And then as you're ready, again, sliding the right foot back. Feel free to keep the toes on the ground and stay here with the knee pointing generally down towards the ground. Or you can lift that foot up. Feel free to stay here with the knee pointing down towards the ground. If you want to, you could play with grabbing the left foot and still stretching that right foot with your right hand and stretching the right knee down. Breathe. And then go ahead and release, shake it out, and come to standing near the top of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath flowing through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold, bending the knees, get the hands to the ground if that works for you, and going back into a downward facing dog or all fours. Pressing the hips up, back away from you. So if you need to bend your knees a bit to lengthen out the low back to keep your hips from tucking under, go ahead and do that. You might try to straighten the legs after a few rounds, but you're trying not to let the hips tuck under, grabbing at the floor with your fingers. And then exhale, coming back to hands and knees if you're not there already. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, and arch the back, head and tailbone up to the sky. Exhale, and round. Inhale, and arch. With our next exhale, we're going to hold the rounded back position. Exhale, and round the back, holding here. Breathe. Nice full deep breath. Notice how strongly your core is engaged here. Notice your hips are tucked under. Notice the shoulders are a little off the back. Your head is looking at your navel. Then keep the core engaged part. And if it works for your body, go ahead and come into an arched back position with your head and hips and chest lifting up a bit. But if this doesn't work for you, then extended spine instead. So whether your spine is extended or your back is a bit arched, you're going to spin the elbows back for the wall behind you. Feel free to stay here. But if it works for you, you're going to exhale and bend your elbows just a little bit here, lowering the chest towards the ground in between the hands, and inhale and come back up. Exhale and bending your elbows, lowering the chest down a little bit. Inhale, coming back up. Exhale and bending the elbows, lowering the chest down. Inhale and come back up. Exhale, child's pose, feet together, knees a little bit apart, hips towards your heels, head towards the ground. If you'd like to tuck your hips under a little bit and let the back gently round, you can do that. Breathe. With your next inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hand, gently rock your hips from side to side. Coming back into center with your hips, press down through the hips, stretch long through the legs, feet on the ground, knees facing the ground. Lift your gaze a little bit from here, arms straight along the sides, fingers pointing towards the toes. Keep pressing down through the hips. Inhale, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest. Exhale and lower. Inhale and lifting up. Exhale and lower. Inhale and lift up, holding the lift. Feel free to stay here, or if you want to, you can float your hands up. Feel free to stay here, or if you would like to, you can interlace the hands behind the back again here. Feel the chest stretching forward, feel the legs stretching back, feel the breath flowing through you, Shalabhasana variation. Also, if you prefer to lift your feet up off the ground a little bit, that's fine as well. And then exhale, go ahead, release, rest your head on the hands, relax the legs, gently rock the hips a bit from side to side. Coming back into center and making your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. With your next inhale, come up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, nice long spine. And with a nice long spine, core engaged, shoulders gently on the back, and start to slide the right leg back behind you, maybe lifting that right leg up. Holding here, breathe. Or if it works for you, shift your weight a bit into your left hand, keep your hips facing the ground, and start to wiggle the right hand forward. So same arm as the leg. Maybe coming up to your fingertips of your right hand. And if everything feels really good for you here, trying to keep your hips facing the ground, chest facing the ground, maybe lift the right hand up too. Maybe it comes back down unintentionally. That's fine. Anyway, as you're ready, coming back to all fours. Inhale, nice long spine. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Left leg can go back, knees and toes facing the ground, hips relatively level. Nice long spine, shifting your weight perhaps into your right hand here. And maybe start to wiggle, spider the left hand forward. Feel free to stay here. Maybe that left hand starts to lift up. Breathe. Nice full deep breath. And then lower the left knee and the left hand down. Inhale and lengthen to the spine. Feel free to stay on all fours or downward facing dog. Pressing those hips up, back, away from you. As you're ready, look forward at the hands. Bend your knees. Walk your feet towards the hands and the hands towards the feet. Once the weight's in your feet, inhale and lengthen to the spine. Exhale and fold. Press down to the feet. Nice long spine. Arms come wide. Reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the hips rooting down to the feet into the earth. Feel a lightness, a lift of the arches of the feet. Feel the breath flowing through you. And then inhale, open your legs nice and wide to the side. Lining your feet up with each other. Opening the legs wide enough apart that you're working some through the legs, but not so wide apart that you can't do things here. And then rooting from the hips down to the feet into the earth. But also, again, feeling that lift from the arches of the feet, leg muscles hugging into the bone, and leg muscles hugging into your hips. Your right toes will either stay facing the long of the mat or turn towards the left a little bit. The left toes could turn all the way out to the left. Hips opening back to the right side. Left knee tracking towards second toe or thereabouts. Exhale and bending that left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Left hand or left forearm to the left leg, gently pressing the left knee open. Lengthening the spine out of the hips, turn your chest a bit toward the sky, and maybe the right hand lifts up to the sky. Parsvakonasana variation. Feel free to stay in this form of the pose, or if you'd like to, if it feels okay for your neck or shoulder to stretch the right arm alongside by the ear, you could do that. Breathe. Nice full deep breaths. With every exhale, perhaps feel the left thigh settling down towards the ground a bit more. But again, not trying to force anything, maybe just feeling that movement. Breathe. And then keeping your legs nice and steady and strong, holding the legs here. Stretch the right arm back to the sky if you moved it. Press down to the feet till your torso back upright and looking over the left fingers. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 position. Hands back to your hips, soften the right knee, and then turn the left toe so they either face along the mat or towards the right a little bit. Right toes all the way out to the right side, hips opening to the left. Right knee tracking towards your second toe or thereabouts. Exhale and bending the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend. Right knee on the top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe or thereabouts. Right hand or right forearm to the right leg, gently pressing the knee open. Spinning your chest a bit towards the sky. Maybe left hand reaches towards the sky. Feel free to stay here, or if it feels okay for your neck and shoulder, you can reach the left arm instead by the ear. Pressing down steadily in through both feet. With your exhales, perhaps that right thigh settles towards the ground a little bit more. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breath. Parsvakonasana, side angle pose. And then trying not to move the legs that much, maybe reaching the left hand back to the sky and tilting the torso back upright, hands into a T, looking over the right fingers, breathing here. Nice, full, deep, complete breath. Virabhadrasana 2. Hands back to the hips, soften the left knee, turn all 10 toes to face the long in the mat here. Heel to your feet in towards each other, shake out the legs, and turn back to face the narrow end of the mat, lining the feet up with each other here. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Legs bend or straight. Exhale, fold forward, hands to the legs, blocks or floor. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold, bend your knees, step back, downward facing dog. All fours is a great option. Instead, press the hips up, back, away from you. And then if it works for you, shoulders forward over the wrist, plank pose. You might need to wiggle the feet back a little bit here. Holding plank maybe for a breath or two, but again, always feel free to lower the knees down. Grabbing at the floor with your fingers, shoulders gently on the back, core gently engaged, head and neck in line with the rest of the spine. Then lower the knees down and coming into a child's pose. Breathe. With your next inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands for a moment. Gently rock your hips a bit from side to side. Coming back into center with your hips. Press down through the hips. Stretch long through the legs. Knees facing the ground. Feet on the ground. Lift your gaze a little bit. Bring the hands to either side of the chest. Underneath shoulders, biceps, or elbows. Float your hands up off the ground here. Feel the shoulders moving towards each other on the back. As you're ready, inhale, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest a little bit. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest, holding the lift here, lowering the hands back down. Act like you're dragging the hands back with the chest lengthening forward. Feel really free to stay here. Or the shoulders moving toward each other on the back, taking multiple breaths. Maybe start to press down to the hands a little bit more and start to lift up higher. Again, moving slowly, keeping the shoulders on the back, keeping the chest moving forward, shoulders away from the ears. So if you notice your shoulders are creeping up towards the ears, slide them down a little bit. Only coming up as high as feels good for you. Still active through the hips and the legs. Breathe. And with just as much of control, slowly coming back down. So the breath moving through you, keeping awareness to the legs and the hips, and coming all the way back down from your cobra, wherever you ended up. Once you're all the way down, rest your head on the hands and gently rock your hips a little side to side. Coming back into center with your hips here. Prop yourself up on your elbows, elbows underneath the shoulders, shoulders on the back, chest lengthening forward, legs relatively close together, pressing down strongly through the hips. As you feel ready, exhale and bending the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the left knee. Just holding here, pressing down through the hips, feel the chest stretching forward, feel the shoulders on the back, feel the breath moving through you. And then as you're ready, releasing the left leg and second side. So exhale and bending the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the right knee. Holding here, pressing down through the hips, chest stretching forward through the shoulders, shoulders on the back with the breath flowing through you here. And then exhale, go ahead and release. Rest the head on the hands, gently rock your hips a little side to side. And then making your way back into center and coming back into a child's pose. Breathe. Okay, as you're ready, we're gonna come into sitting with the legs straight forward down in front of us, knees and toes pointing up to the sky. So just doing that transition into Tadasana, however works for you. And you could be up on fingertips or your palms can be flat. But I want you to try to sit up nice and tall, lifting the low back up out of the hips. So if you need to bend your knees, you can bend your knees and do that. And also, some people also like hands on thighs or hands on blocks. That's also fine. So just a version of Tadasana that works for you, sitting up nice and tall. And then we're gonna come back into cross-legged if that works for you, with the right leg crossed in front of the left, holding onto your knees. If that doesn't work for you, again, back to this position where you're working the hips in a way that doesn't really have a name in yoga, but it's still working the hips and trying to sit up nice and tall. Okay, feel free to stay in this version of the pose. Or if it works for you from here, what I want you to do is to slide your knees wider apart from each other and try to sit up nice and tall. So maybe your right foot ends up, your right heel ends up in front of the left heel, ends up in front of your hips, but maybe not. So maybe you don't end up opening the knees that wide apart. Maybe you're just somewhere in between a tighter cross-legged position and a more open cross-legged position. This position is called Tadasana with the knees wider apart. The position with the knees closer in is called Sukhasana in yoga. But again, playing with where you are in between those. And then as you're ready, switching sides. So cross-legged with the left knee in front of the right, sitting up nice and tall here, breathing. And if it works for you, maybe opening the knees wider apart, and you can press your knees out into your hands. And you can also use your hands to help you sit up nice and tall here. Breathe. And then from here we are coming into Baddha Konasana. So if it works for you, feet together, knees apart, holding onto your ankles, trying to untuck your hips, sitting up nice and tall here. And then if you want to from here, everyone will come into the position where their feet are further forward, and you can take a gentle forward fold in that position. This position with the forward fold is sometimes called Tirasana in yoga, star pose. And then as you're ready, come back upright through the torso and making your way to all fours, coming to your hands and knees. Inhale and stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale and round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, downward facing dog if that's in your practice. If not, all fours. Look forward at the hands, bend your knees, walk your feet towards the hands towards the feet. Inhale and lengthen through the spine. Exhale and fold. Press down to the feet. Nice long spine. Arms come wide. Reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you, rooting from the hips down to the feet into the earth. Feel the arches of the feet lifting up. And then as you're ready, soften your knees. Open your legs nice and wide to the side. Lining your feet up with each other here. Feet opening wide enough apart that the legs are working, but not so much that you can't move. Hugging in from your feet to your hips, but also then rooting back from the hips to the feet into the earth. Right toes either staying facing along in the mat or turn to the left a little bit. Left toes turning all the way out to the left. Hips opening back to the right. Inhale, lengthen the spine here. Exhale, letting the left hip drop down, leaning to the left with the legs relatively straight. Inhale, you can come back upright. And then exhale again, letting that left hip drop down. Lengthen the spine here, maybe stretching the left arm towards the wall out in front of you. As you spin your chest towards the sky, maybe right hand lifts up to the sky. Maybe keeps engaged through the torso, left hand to wherever's comfortable on the left leg. Trikonasana, triangle pose. Breathing here. Feel free to keep your left hand wherever it landed, or if you want to let the left hand slide a bit further down the leg while you still try to lengthen the spine out of the hips, you can do that. Breathe. Staying nice and strong and steady to the legs. Press down to the feet, come all the way up. Left toes facing the long in the mat or turning towards the right. Right toes all the way out, hips opening back to the left. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, dropping into that right hip. Inhale, level out the hips. Exhale, dropping into the right hip, lengthen the spine. Maybe the right arm stretches for the wall back behind you. Spin your chest towards the sky if you want to. Left hand towards the sky. Breathe. Staying engaged through the core. Maybe the right hand comes wherever it's comfortable on the right leg. Right leg pressing a little bit into your hand to keep a little bit of the knee. Feel free to stay here, or if you want to, again, trying to lengthen the spine out of the hips some. Maybe the right hand slides a bit further down the right leg. Maybe it doesn't, though. Maybe you're happy wherever you are. Breathe. Staying nice and strong and steady through the legs. Press down to the feet. Come all the way up. Turn all 10 toes to face along in the mat. Hands to your hips. Knees a bit soft. Inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale, start to fold forward in the hips. Notice when the back wants to round, creating some more space there. But then if you want to, with that space you cultivated, gently letting the back round and folding in. Your legs can stay a bit bent, or you can straighten the legs. You can keep your hands on your hips, moving your elbows and shoulders towards each other. You can interlace the hands behind the back, but hands on the hips. Or if you would like to, in this position, you can stretch your arms off the back again. Breathe. Staying nice and strong and stable through the legs. Press down to the feet all the way up. With your knees soft, heel toe the feet in toward each other. Shake out the legs. And turn and line your feet up near the front of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the side, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees, act like you're sitting back in a chair. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Shift your weight to your right foot, hands too. And a big step back with your left foot, whatever that means for you. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe, maybe wiggling that left foot back further. Press down to your feet, hug into your hips, and maybe bring your forearms down to your legs here, or your right forearm down to legs here. So just working this position, hugging in from your feet to your hips, but equally from the hips, reaching out or extending back out into the feet, into the earth. Breathe. If you want to, from here, you can lower the left hand to the ground, right hand to the right knee, turn your chest to the right, and maybe lift the right hand up to the sky. Breathe. And then lowering the right hand back to the right knee, turning the chest back towards the ground. Maybe right hand even comes all the way to the ground. It might be inside or outside the right foot. Pressing down to that right foot, slide, wiggle, scoot, step the left foot forward to meet it. Inhale and lengthen through the spine. Exhale and fold. Press down through the feet. Nice long spine. Arms come wide. Reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Feel the feet on the earth. With your next exhale, release your hands. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, nice long spine. Shift your weight to the left foot. Hands to right foot goes back. Big step. Left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe. Sliding that right foot further back. And big is relative, so big for you might not be big for someone else. Hugging in from your feet to your hips here, and if you want to, you can bring your forearms to that left leg. And just holding here, working those legs. And then if it works for you, the right hand can come to the floor, turning the chest to the left. Maybe the left hand lifts up toward the sky. Breathe. And then left hand to the left knee. Turn the chest back to the ground. If you want to, left hand all the way to the ground. Hugging in from your feet to the hips, stretching the chest forward, shifting the weight eventually into that left foot. Slide, wiggle, scoot, step the right foot forward. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Feel the feet on the earth underneath you. With your next exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend your knees, step back, downward facing dog or all fours. And again, feel free to stay in all fours or plank pose with the shoulders forward over the wrist. Core engaged. Maybe wiggle your feet back a little bit here. And then from here, lower the knees down to the ground. Okay, feel free to stay here or feel free to stay in an all fours variation. Or if it works for you, with the chest, with the spine nice and long, shoulders on the back, head and neck in line with the rest of the spine. Elbows pointing back to the wall behind you, taking multiple breaths. You're going to start to slowly bend the elbows here, trying to keep the spine nice and long. But this time, instead of lowering the chest in between the hands, you're lowering the chest a little bit forward past your fingers. So the chest, if it works for you, is further forward. And if it works for you, you will just slowly, with control, shoulders on the back, ease your way all the way to the floor from here. If that doesn't work for you, come to your belly, however works. If you get stuck anywhere, just make your way to your belly, however works for you. Press down to the hips, stretch long to the legs, float your hands up, for the shoulders on the back, and curling the chest a bit up here. But staying anchoring through the hips and active through the legs. Exhale, lower the hands down, act like you're dragging your hands back. And again, if you want to, taking multiple breaths, pressing down to the hands, slowly lifting up higher here, coming into a cobra, but being conscious of where your shoulders are, keeping them a little bit on the back, keeping them a little bit down away from the ears, only lifting up as high as works for you. Breathe. Feel free to stay here. Feel really free to stay here. If you want to, you can press down to the hands and your feet and lift your hips up, coming into a bit of a dog. You might have to slide the feet forward too for that. And then exhale, easing your way all the way down to your belly and making your way back into a child's pose. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. As you feel ready, we're going to transition into sitting with the left leg forward, out in front, knee and toe pointing up to the sky, hugging the right knee in towards the chest. Sitting up nice and tall here, lifting the low back up out of the hips. Feel free to stay here, or left arm across the right leg, right hand back behind you, twisting towards the right. If you want to lean back a little bit and cross the left arm all the way over the right leg, you can. Breathe. I'm also letting my left elbow move my right knee a little bit across the midline, doing a bit of an internal rotation through my hip here. If that doesn't feel good for you, you definitely don't have to do that, but you can play with that. And then go ahead and unwind and let your right knee open to the right side. And the right foot might be further down or it might be higher up on the leg. Bring your hands back behind you here, left knee and toe pointing up to the sky. Untuck your hips, lift up through the low back, open through the chest, open through the throat, breathing here. And then keeping the low back lifting in and up, you might need to bend the left knee too, so feel free to do that. Walk your hands forward like you're doing a Dandasana, like you're sitting up nice and tall. Then from here, keeping that form, just grab wherever is easy to grab on the left leg, pulling back, sitting up nice and tall here. Feel free to stay here, or if you want to, with the middle of your chest moving a little bit over that left leg, like when we were standing at near the very beginning of class, you can ease your way into a forward fold. Your back will gently round here, and you actually want that, but you want your hips to move with your back. So the top of the hips is moving towards your foot too. If the top of your hips is moving away from your foot, then you bend your knees and you bring your left thigh closer in towards you and you fold forward there. So top of the hips moving forward. As you feel ready, go ahead and come all the way back up with the right knee up, straighten the right leg. Second side, bending the left knee with the twist, sitting up nice and tall here. Right arm across the leg, left hand back behind you, turning to the left. And again, if you want to lean back a little bit, cross the right elbow over, you can. And if you want to use that elbow and move the left knee across the right leg a little bit, doing some internal rotation through your hip and that left side while you keep the left hip on the ground, you could do that, but for some people that's not going to feel good in their hip. For other people that will feel really nice. Okay, go ahead, unwind and open the left knee to the left side. Hands back behind you, untucking your hips, sitting up nice and tall. You also might notice this might let the left knee come a little bit closer to the ground. You're not trying to force that knee down, but if it does, just come a little bit closer to the ground with that untucking of the hips and that little bit of a back bend in the back. Then enjoy that. And then as you're ready, keeping the hips from tucking under, walking your hands forward. So again, if you need to bend your right knee a little bit to sit up nice and tall, you do that. Grab someplace comfortable on the right leg, pulling back, sitting up nice and tall here. And then as you're ready, easing your way into the forward fold. But as you come forward, the top of the hips, you want to also go towards your feet as you let the back round. And again, if it's not, you just bend your knee a bit more. So that is fine to have a more deeply bended knee. And you could play with, once you bend the knee, if you want to, pressing the heel or sliding the heel along the mat and straightening the legs, but keeping your hips moving forward. Again, only as much as feels good for you. Breathe. Go ahead and coming all the way up, right? Bring both legs forward down in front of you, knees and toes pointing up to the sky. But then from here, I want you to intentionally have your heels on the ground and bend your knees fairly much, holding on underneath the thighs. Sit up nice and tall here, and then pour yourself forward over the legs and maybe grabbing your feet or your ankles or someplace here. And laying the back around here. And again, notice your torso is really close to the thighs and your hips are really close to your legs here. Okay, go ahead and come back up. Bring the legs straighter. You might straighten them all the way, or you might keep a little bit in the knees. Grabbing someplace easy to grab. Sit up nice and tall here, lifting the low back up out of the hips. And again, as you fold forward, I want you to feel the hips coming closer, the tops of the hips coming closer to the thighs. I want you to feel the tops of the hips moving forward. If they're not, bend your knees more again, and maybe walking your feet forward after you bend the knees, letting the hips move forward, breathing in your version of a forward fold here. And then as you're ready, go ahead and come back up. Bring the hands back behind you. Untuck your hips, lift up through the low back, open through the chest, open through the throat. Feel really free to stay here with your hands turning out to the side and facing towards your feet. But if your shoulders and neck and everything feels good and you want, you can press down through your heels and lift your hips up a little bit. You might even point the toes and bring the feet down. But again, just doing what works for you. Breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and release and ease your way all the way onto your back. So just coming to your back, however works for you. Hugging the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. And feel free to hold on to the knees or let them go, drawing circles of the knees on the ceiling with the knees in one direction, massaging out the hips and the low back. And then drawing circles on the sling with the knees in the other direction. We will go straight into twisting today. So once you're ready, coming back into center with your hips, bring your arms into a position you can press down through the shoulders and the back of the head. That might be a T position, that might be an airplane position, that might be a W position, that might be a cactus position, pressing down through the shoulders and the back of the head. Feel free to keep your feet lifted, hips a little tucked under, natural curves of the spine, weight lower in the hips, but core engaged, or to bring your feet all the way back down to the ground. When I bring my feet down, I usually have my feet wide apart and do windshield wipers. Whichever version of a twist you're doing though. With your next exhale, you can lower the knees over to the right side. Inhale, up to center. Exhale the knees to the left side. Inhale to center. Exhale the knees to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale the knees to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale the knees to the right. Holding your knees on the right side. Breathing wherever you're at. Nice full deep breath. Left shoulder relaxing towards the ground or pressing into the ground. Maybe turning your gaze and looking over the left shoulder. And then as you feel ready, unwinding back to center and second side. Knees over to the left side. Right shoulder relaxing towards the ground or pressing into the ground. And only if it feels good for your neck, you could turn your head and look over that shoulder if you'd like. Breathe. As you feel ready, unwinding your way back to center, hugging the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. Feeling free to stay in a ball or opening your knees wider apart, lengthening through the spine some, maybe pulling the knees down towards the ground on either side of you, maybe flipping your feet up to the sky, holding on to the back of the knees, the lower legs, or your feet as you rock from side to side. All these are versions of happy baby pose, whichever variation works the best for you. Eventually unwinding into center and full body stretch. Stretch the arms up above the head, legs along the floor. Lengthen the back of the hips towards your feet. And final relaxation as you feel inclined to. So if Shavasana works really well for you, you can come into Shavasana with your arms in an airplane position, palms facing up along the sides of the body, legs opening wider apart than the hips, back of your hips lengthening towards the feet. But if Shavasana does not work for you, any position that your spine is relatively neutral and supported is lovely. So feel free to play with different arm and hand positions. Feel free to bend your knees and have the feet on the ground, or have the knees falling in and feet opening wide, or feet together and knees opening wide. Again, any position that spine is neutral and works for you. You could come onto your side if that works better for you. Finding the position that's right for you in this moment. Once you find that position, you also might put some blocks or something underneath your knees. Once you find that position, your eyes can be soft or closed. The breath will flow through you. And maybe with your exhales, notice all the places where your body is in contact with the floor. And with your exhales, let yourself settle down into that support. Let yourself release. Let yourself feel held. You can do a scan of your body if you like, starting with your feet. And just notice if any muscles are still trying to grip or grasp in your feet, and relax them out. Moving up to the calves and the shins and the thighs. And just again, notice if any muscles are still trying to work or engage or just holding on to the bone. And just with your exhale, see if you could get those muscles to relax and to release. Your hips and your glutes. The muscles along the spine. You might even use an inhale as you come to your spine and feel the vertebrae of the spine moving away from each other, creating more space. And then on the exhales, releasing those muscles along the spine. The hands, the palms, relaxing. The forearms, the upper arms, the shoulders, feeling balance between the right and the left side of your hips and the right and the left side of your shoulders. Coming to your face, just making sure you're not clenching your jaw, relaxing the muscles around the jaw, the muscles around the nose, even the muscles around your eyes and the eyebrows. Just seeing if with your exhales, you can release those muscles out a bit and soften a bit more. And then the top of your head. And you might even visualize the follicles on your head, of hair on the head, moving away from each other to help relax the muscles on the top of the head. Whenever you're as relaxed as you're going to be in this current moment, maybe one more deep, full breath in, and then exhaling, letting go of everything, including the breath, and just letting yourself be here, whatever that might mean for you in this moment. Come back to your breath. Feel the breath flowing through you. Feel how your body moves with the breath. And then coming into small movements, wiggling fingers and toes, circling ankles and wrists, stretching arms and legs. When you feel ready, if you'd like, you can bend your knees, and keeping that connection to the flow of the breath and the support of the earth underneath you, maybe coming onto your side, traditionally right, pausing on your side. Wherever you are, feel the breath and the connection to the earth underneath you. Then just as you feel inclined to, you can ease your way to a comfortable sitting position. Legs and hips staying heavy, breath flowing, spine, once you're into sitting, lifting up, the stability of your spine. And we will finish with an Om. If you'd like to join in, hands together in front of the heart. Exhaling. Inhale deeply.